till now we've assumed to be ideal. So incidentally, I'm trying a video this time, so my face also appears on the screen. Let us see if this is for you a different experience at all compared to the previous one. I don't know. You have to tell me which is better. So maybe in future I'll do the video or not. Okay, so again, just to quickly recap, this is a buck converter. We have designed the basic buck converter. You have learned how to find the specs for the op amps and the comparator, the gain of 100 amplifier. What is left now is what happens with this ideal switch, which is what we'll discuss this time. And in the next lecture, we'll discuss the design of the oscillator, and that will be the end of the discussion on the buck converter. And then we'll go back to bipolar transistor circuits, which is where Professor Madhav Rao had left off before the midterm exams. Okay, so let's get on with the switch now. So till now we've assumed an ideal switch. So 12 volts, Vx, the buck circuit, and Vs is the output of the comparator. So the question is, what can act as a real switch? What do you think? So here, a simple bipolar transistor can act as a switch. So let's think about this. If Vs is 0, then the transistor is off, and of course no current flows from 12 volts to the buck circuit. If Vs is high, any value, in our case this is going to be exactly 12 volts. So that's high enough to turn on this bipolar transistor, and so a current can flow from 12 volts to Vx. So now let's study the characteristics of this switch. Well, before that, so here is a kind of broad overview of how transistors are used in the world. So they are used primarily in two ways, either as switches, which is just as on and off, in which case, well, the entire digital world uses transistors as switches. When it is on, it represents a digital 1, and when it is off, it represents a digital 0, or vice versa sometimes. Of course, nowadays, no digital circuits are made with bipolar transistors. They are made with MOSFETs, but they are transistors nonetheless. So transistors are used as switches in the entire, all digital electronics, all everything, laptops, mobile phones, everything. In analog circuits also they are used as switches, and here is this example of the buck converter is one way that they are used as switches. Of course, this is a much smaller number in terms of if you try to think of the actual number of transistors used as switches in analog circuits. But as the buck converter shows, this is an important application. Generally, when a transistor is used as a switch, it will be operated either in cutoff or in saturation. In cutoff, of course, when the switch is off. But when it is on, the bipolar transistor will be used in saturation. Why? Why not the active region? We'll see in a minute. The other, of course, major application of the transistor is as an amplifier, as a voltage amplifier, current amplifier, or a power amplifier. The voltage, power, etc., we will talk in great detail later on when we go back to the transistors. The current we'll talk a little bit later on in this same today's presentation. Yes, as an amplifier, the transistor is always operated in the active region. Why is that? Why would the transistor be used? Okay, a tractor is passing. Because it is only in the active region that the transistor has a current gain. For a bipolar transistor, IC is equal to beta IB, where beta is very large, is valid only in the active region. So if you want to use it as an amplifier, of course, we'll use it in the active region. Okay, in the buck converter, we are using the transistor as a switch. but we are not operating it in the saturation, we are operating it in the active region. Let us see why. So here is the, again, the transistor. Let us look at the voltages. So this Vs is the output of the comparator, so it is 12 volts. For the transistor to be on, the base emitter voltage will be about 0.7 volts. So Vx is 11.3 volts. This collector is connected to 12 volts. So the collector emitter voltage is 0.7 volts, which is more than 0.2. So the transistor is acting in the active region. So we know two things, which the first I already said. The second is that the switch, which is from here to here or from here to here, in an ideal switch, this voltage drop is 0. In a real bipolar transistor switch, this voltage drop in our circuit is 0.7 volts. What does this do? It of course does two things. One is because Vx is less than 12, the switch is not ideal. And we had discussed this, you remember previously, that Vx is going to be less than 12 volts. We'll discuss a little more about this. The other is that because this voltage is less than 12 volts, VCE is not 0, and therefore there is a power consumed by the bipolar transistor. So when the buck converter is operating, some power is lost in the transistor, and this reduces the overall power efficiency of the buck converter. This is of course not good, but one lives with it because there is no other choice. But we could, for example, ask the question, why not operate the transistor in saturation? Or in other words, can we reduce VCE so that this power consumption reduces? So can we operate this transistor in saturation? Let us see. So you take the bipolar transistor, we want to operate it in saturation. So this is 12. We want the emitter voltage to be 11.8 volts. So this is 0.2, and we can say, yeah, the transistor is operating in saturation. But for this to be 11.8, the base voltage has to be 12.5 volts. But we don't have the luxury in our circuit to have a comparator output of 12.5 volts. We are constrained to 12 volts. So this is why we are constrained to this being 11.3 and this being 0.7. So we are kind of forced to have a VCE of 0.7 volts. Okay, can we do something else? This is not working. Can we do something else so that the BJT is in saturation? The hint, of course, is here. So instead of NPN, can we use a PNP transistor? Let us see. So we replace the NPN with a PNP. So the emitter goes on top. This is at 12 volts. So if the base is at 11.3 volts and we design the currents and etc., something, all the parameters, then it is possible to imagine that the collector voltage can be made 11.8 volts. So this will be 0.2 and the transistor is in saturation. And because this is less than 12, theoretically it should be possible to construct something before the base so that we make this voltage 11.3. This is possible, but it needs a thoughtful design. We will not discuss this design. I'm leaving this to the adventurous student. If you want to, you can try and design the buck converter using a PNP transistor. This is extracurricular. I am not expecting you to do it as part of the course, but if you like doing such things, then great, go ahead and do it. So for our design, we'll continue to use an NPN transistor. It will have a voltage drop of 0.7, so a little power loss, but that's okay. We are not building the most efficient buck converter for our assignment. All right, so let us continue with, so given all this, let us decide the specifications for the transistor, the switch. So this whole lecture is about the design of the switch. Okay, so what the two things we need to decide about the transistor are the current and the voltage. So what is the maximum emitter current that it must supply? This we've already discussed at least twice. So basically you need to find the maximum switch current from the circuit of your first assignment. And that becomes the maximum current that the transistor must supply. This is very similar to the diode actually, because the diode current flows when the switch is off, the transistor current flows when the switch is on, and those two currents are roughly of the same order of magnitude. So that you take that value. Just to get an estimate, just to get a ballpark figure, can we estimate this without doing simulations? So if you think about it, in steady state, we know that the output voltage of the buck converter is a DC, nearly a DC. So if it is nearly a DC, we can assume that the capacitor current is zero, because in DC capacitor doesn't carry any current. Then the load current, which is the current through the load resistance, will be equal to the inductor current, because the capacitor current is zero. And the inductor current is approximately the average switch current. Actually, this should be probably half. The switch current is, the average switch current is probably half of the average inductor current. Think about it why. But in any case, to get an estimate, so we say, okay, the maximum load current is equal to the maximum output voltage divided by the load resistance. The maximum output voltage is 9 volts. You recall, we are designing the buck converter for an output voltage from 2 to 9 volts. So the maximum is 9. RL varies depending on your specifications given. Some of you have 2, 5, 8, 12. So I'm taking the lowest value, 2, which gives a 4.5 amperes DC. So this is a reasonably large current for which you must design the transistor switch. Also remember that this is a DC current we have estimated. When you actually simulate the circuit, you'll see that during the transient, when the switch is turning on and off, the collector current actually goes higher. So that you'll find only from the simulations. You can estimate it from the on paper also, but that is a detailed exercise. So you please find the actual highest possible collector current required by your circuit. So that you find from simulation. The highest voltage across the collector emitter terminals of the bipolar transistor is of course 12 volts. This is often referred to as VCEO in transistor data sheets. So you want to find a transistor that can carry a few amperes of current, that has a maximum collector emitter voltage of 12 volts. Speed also is another consideration, but usually transistors are very fast, especially compared to op-amps and comparators. So you don't need to worry about looking at the transistor speed specification. Just the current and the voltage are the primary. So you find a commercial transistor that gives you this current and this voltage. Why is the transistor speed usually not a factor compared to an op-amp and a comparator? It's because the op-amp and a comparator themselves are made of many transistors. And many transistors put together will always have a speed smaller than a single transistor. So this, we are talking only a single transistor. So it will almost always have a speed higher than the speed of a comparator or an op-amp. Of course, it's all qualified because the transistor carries a large current. So large current carrying transistors can be slow because of the size, because a larger current requires a larger size, and larger size implies larger capacitances. But for now, let's not worry. The transistor is going to be fast enough. If you are again curious, you can look at the speed also of the transistor when you look at the data sheet. Okay. Unfortunately, the switch design may not be over. So let's go back here. So this is our switch. So we said we found the current, we found the voltage, we found the commercial transistor. Unfortunately, this may not be sufficient, and here is the reason why. So let us say that the maximum collector current you require for your circuit is 4 amperes. And let's assume that the beta of the transistor is 100. That means that the base current required from this circuit, from this transistor, from the circuit is 40 milliamperes. 4 amperes divided by 100, 40 milliamperes. 40 milliamperes is still a large current, and most chips, a comparator you're using is a chip, may not supply 40 milliamps of current. So it's possible that the comparator you have chosen, which you did already in your previous assignment, may not be able to supply a current of 40 milliamperes. What do we do then? So incidentally, because by the time you design the switch, you would have designed the comparator already. So don't change the comparator. Let the comparator be. Let us see what we can do given that the comparator does not supply 40 milliamps of output current. So what do we do? Here is what we do. So this is our earlier switch transistor. We add one more transistor. So now we want this to be, let's say, 4 amperes, the collector and the emitter current of Q1. So we want the base current of Q1 to be 40 milliamperes. Now we put one more transistor. So the emitter current of Q2 must be 40 milliamperes. And the base current of Q2 will be 40 divided by 100, roughly speaking. So that's about 0.4 milliamperes. And that the comparator will surely be able to provide. So now with this configuration, we are able to match the current output of the comparator to the switch current required by the transistor. Also, this demonstrates an important application of the transistor, which is as a current amplifier, or often called a driver. So this Q2 is basically acting as a driver or a current amplifier, and this often happens. So here is an example of what you did last semester. There was an experiment of an Arduino where you were using the Arduino to drive a DC motor. I'm not sure if you remember, but you had connected to the output pin of the Arduino, slightly messed up here, but basically a bipolar transistor. And the collector of the bipolar transistor was connected to the motor. The reason was that the motor requires a current that is much higher than what the Arduino chip can provide at its output pin. And so to make sure that the motor gets enough current, you put a current driver, which is nothing but a bipolar transistor. So this is an important application of transistors as a current driver. Okay, let's go back to the two transistors. Okay, three more things. So Q2 needs to carry about 40 milliamps. If I'm assuming throughout that this current required is 4 amperes. So this Q2, the commercial transistor you choose for Q2 does not need to be the same as Q1, because the current requirement of Q2 is much smaller than the current requirement of Q1. Of course, you could choose Q2 the same as Q1, because Q1 supplies 4 amperes. Q2 could also supply 4 amperes, although you don't need it, but at least it is within specs. But it is preferable not to choose Q2 to supply 4 amperes. You want to choose Q2 that supplies a much smaller current. Why? Why would one not want the two transistors to supply the same current? I mean, now, why would you not want Q2 to carry as much current as Q1? No, I'm not saying this properly. Why would you not choose Q2 to carry 4 amperes when the requirement is only 40 milliamperes? The answer is that any transistor that supplies large currents or can carry large currents is usually more expensive. And so you don't unnecessarily want to purchase a transistor that is more expensive. Q2 will be can be much cheaper than Q1. That is the reason. Of course, Q1 also will be much smaller, as I said earlier. I'm sorry, much slower compared to Q2. Okay. Also, if you look at this Q1, Q2 configuration, when the two collectors are joined together and the emitter of one is connected to the base of the other, this composite structure has 3 terminals. Here is one, which is effectively the base. Here is the other, which is the emitter, and the two collectors connected together is a collector. So this composite is actually also, it behaves like a transistor with a very large beta. So from here to here, the beta is basically the product of the betas of Q1 and Q2. And so this is often called a Darlington pair, named after a person called Darlington who first thought of this idea way back in the 50s. All right. One more thing. So last lecture we had talked about a comparator, class of comparators that are called open collector comparators, to which you have to connect a resistor outside. Now, in case you have chosen a comparator for your design, which is an open collector comparator, then this discussion is relevant to you. So this is what the circuit would look like if you have an open collector comparator. So you'll have an externally connected resistor RC and our two transistors Q1, Q2. How do we choose RC? So there are two things that will determine RC. Okay, this is an unnecessary slide. The data sheet of the comparator will specify what is called as a maximum sink current. So that is a current that this transistor can carry, the largest value according to the data sheet that the collector can carry of the transistor inside the comparator chip. So the data sheet will specify what is the largest sink current that can be carried by the output pin of the comparator. So that I sync, of course, is approximately equal to VCC by RC, assuming that the transistor is in saturation, and so the voltage is approximately 0 at the collector. And so I sync is equal to 12 by RC. The data sheet gives you I sync, so that puts the lower limit on RC. You cannot make RC lower because then the I sync will become higher, but the chip cannot sink a larger current, so we have to restrict RC to a value higher than the limit set by this equation. That is one thing that determines RC. The other thing that determines RC is, let's look at, so that happens when Vs is low. The sink happens when Vs is low, close to 0, and Q1, Q2 are off, and all the current is flowing from, from RC2 into the comparator chip. When Vs is high, then the Q1, Q2 are on and current flows like this. Yeah, current flows like this. Okay, now I am thinking that when Vs is high, so okay, so I had not thought about this before. when Vs is high, a current, no, okay. So when Vs is high, the, what's it called? The voltage here, this is inside the comparator chip. This voltage is going to be low and this transistor is going to be off. Okay, so it's okay. So this transistor will be off and the only current path is through RC, through the base emitter of Q2 and base emitter of Q1. So now let us think about the currents here. So we said that, you remember earlier I had said last lecture that we assume that Vx can vary from 10.6 to 11.3 volts. And this is the circuit why that voltage was set, because there are two transistors, each has a 0.7 volt, and so this goes down to 10.6. But as you can see here, there is an additional voltage drop across RC also. So this is 0.7, this is 0.7 plus a drop across RC. So you want to make sure that a drop across RC is not large, because you don't want Vx to go even below 10.6, should stay at 10.6 or thereabout. So you say, okay, I want to make sure that the drop across RC is small. So you say put some value, some small value. It's up to you. But let us say you say, okay, I'll make it 50 milliamp, 0.05 volts, which is a small value. Now you know the base current requirement of Q2, because you know this current, that you've already determined from simulation. So you divide by the beta of Q1, which, by the way, the betas of Q1, Q2 you have to find from the data sheet. So you divide by the beta of Q1, then divide by the beta of Q2, that is a current through RC. So you know the current that is required through RC, and you say, well, I'll assume this voltage to be 50 millivolts, and so that gives me the value of the maximum RC I want to allow based on the base current of Q2. And that sets a maximum limit, and then from the maximum and minimum, you choose something in between for RC. So this is how you choose RC if you're using an open collector comparator. All right. So this finishes the discussion on the switch. And now you are ready to work on the third part of the buck converter design. This is due Thursday, April 16th. So you have time whenever you want to do this. The earlier you do, the better. And the submission will be very similar to your submission, assignment 2 submission. It will have a PDF file with all the plots, and they're the same as the specification, what I described last time. Only thing is, for this one, you will provide in the PDF file the specifications of the two bipolar transistors that you choose, 2 or 1. You may not, all of you may not need to use the Darlington configuration. You may get away with only one transistor in the switch. So you see, but whatever circuit you use, whatever number of transistors you use, from the data sheet, you find the basic specs of the transistor and you include them in the PDF file. And then, of course, you will also attach the schematic of the simulated circuit. All right, so that is that. So this is the end of today's, or not today's, but this lecture. All right.